Hi everyone, welcome back to the Book Vandal Shop. So I'm going to build some covers for some Christmas journals that I'm working on. I had a little request in the last journals that I showed whether or not I would do a tutorial on how I did the covers. I haven't really decided if these are going to be done the same way. So I thought, I'll just bring you along for the process. It's not going to be so much of a tutorial as it is just a craft along with me, see how my process is. So here's what I'm working on. I have some Christmas journals in a pink theme. These are using My Porch Prints. They are a little smaller than a normal 8.5 by 11 folded in half. So I've done some measurements on these already, and I've already figured out my sizes. Normally when I make journals, I get my pages together. I do any sewing that I'm going to want to do, and then I bind it, and then I add in all my tags and all that. And I always ended up, even though I tried to give myself extra room, I would always end up with these chunky monkeys, with the alligator mouth. So the last few journals I've done, I've actually finished them first before I bound them. That way I could make the cover exactly the size I needed it to be. So I'll just show you how I came up with the measurements I need. These are going to have a front cover that is 4 3/4 inches wide. So what that's going to do is give me basically from the folded edge to just a little bit past the page edge. I'm not going to go past my lace because I do want that to kind of stick out past my cover. But I do want my page edges protected, so that gives me a little bit extra. So I'm doing 4 3/4 there. For this particular journal, I'm going to go about 7 1/8 inch tall, and that will give me a little bit of space at the top and a little bit at the bottom past my page edge. Let's see, this journal here, I'm going to go about 7. So that just gives me, about 3/8 of an inch really at the top and 3/8 at the bottom. And then to do to figure out what I need for a spine, so if you look, obviously, most of the time, you're going to be chunkier on one side than you are on the spine edge. So what I've tried to do, I've got all my tags and stuff in here, is just kind of hold that edge down a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't want to smash it hard, but put it to about where it would be if I tied it closed. And then I'm going to measure the height back here. I can do that on this edge. And I'm just rough guesstimating. So, that comes up to be about 2 1/4 inches tall. Over here on this edge, if I kind of hold down on this side and let these spread out naturally, kind of like that. I can check that measurement over here, see what I get. Yeah, I think I can get that all in a 2 1/4 to 2 1/2. I may want to go 2 1/2. I have 2 1/4 written on my notes over here, but I think I'm going to change it to 2 1/2. All right, 2 1/2. And that was for that one. And then this one, I've already done the measurements on it. It's very, very similar to the other one. Let me check the width on that one again. I'm going to hold it upright. Just kind of squeeze it together a little bit. I'm not squishing it, just squeezing it together a little bit. Let those signatures get a little bit of space between each one. Let's see what I come up with. I had 2 1/4 on this one as well, but I think I'm going to go, I think I'm going to go 2 3/4 on this one. 2 3/4. Just give it a little bit of extra room. That way if you want to add anything else to it. Okay? All right. So that's going to be my chipboard sizes or cardboard or whatever you're gonna be using, but I'm not gonna work on that yet. Next thing I'm gonna do is I want some fabric. Hang on. So this book here that you saw in my last video in the flip through, this I used actual book cloth for this. It's a really super thin fabric that has sort of like a paper coating on one side, so you can glue it to your book without glue seeping through. And so that was actual like book cloth, purchased book cloth. I don't have any in the color I want, and I don't even have enough to do these projects. If I had enough of this green left over, I could even just paint it the color I wanted, but I don't have enough of it. So I'm just going to use some fabric that I'm going to glue over the top of my cover when I get my cover built. So I've got some fabric here. This is just a really super thin cotton, like a cotton muslin. Plenty of cloth. All right. So what I want to do now is I'm going to mix up some paint that's going to match my journals. And both of the journals are in these pink tones, so I think I will find something that matches both journals. That way I'm only mixing paint one time. They can both be the same color. So I think I'll go with a dark pink. All right. Okay, so I have gathered up some paints. I found some pinks. I don't know that they're exactly the color I want, nor do I have enough of each one to paint both of these covers. So we're going to be doing some mixing and adding. Some of these paints I've had around for a long time. Some of them are a little bit chunky, which is okay, because when I paint the cloth, I can pull the chunks out of it, so to speak. There's no reason to throw it in the trash unless it's just really bad. Set that up right. And I'm just going to keep dumping. Yeah, see, that one's kind of thick, but we can always thin it down. It's a nice dusty rose color there. Just as it is. I know it needs blended a little more. But there's some I got there on my paper, I think. I mean, pink's pink, right? Definitely matches that one perfectly. I think that'll be just fine. And I hope it should be enough. If not, well, then I guess I'm doing one cover and I'll figure out what I'm going to do for the other cover. Because that's just how I do things. All right, I'm going to start with the bigger piece of cloth. So I'm just laying that down here on my paper. Normally I would use freezer paper. I like to do painting my cloth on freezer paper. So you put the slick side up and then put your fabric on it, and then when you paint it, you can just peel it right off the freezer paper. So that's that coated paper. It's this white paper on one side, and then it has that clear coating on the opposite side. And this paintbrush will do, I reckon. All right, and I am just gonna paint. Just gonna paint the whole thing. Okay, so I've given both of my fabrics a coat of paint, and I'm going to let those dry. They're not perfect, and I can see like little imperfections in them, and that's fine. So I'm going to let those dry. I may get my my little heat tool out and dry them a little bit. And then I've got enough paint here, I can kind of give a second little wash coat over the top of them and get any places that I missed. So I only need to worry about the front side. Okay, and then we'll be back and we're going to cut the covers. Okay, so my fabric is still drying. I did a little bit with the heat tool, but it just really needs to dry for a while. So while we're waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting the chipboard for my covers. So you don't have to use chipboard. You can use cardboard. You can use an old book cover from a junk book that you've taken apart. You can recycle or upcycle that. But I am using chipboard, and this is the Graphics brand medium weight chipboard. Let me write that down for you. I believe it's spelled Graphics, like Graffix, Graphics, and it's considered the medium weight chipboard. Chip, like eating a potato chip. Every time I say chipboard, my husband thinks I'm saying something else, which I won't say because then I won't get monetized for the video. Anyway, yeah. So I'm using Graphics medium weight chipboard. Now I like to use a double thickness for my front and back covers, just so that it's extra sturdy. And there's a little secret to that. So each sheet of chipboard paper is the same way, and cardstock's the same way. There's a grain to it. So when you pick up your chipboard, you can feel it flex a particular way, okay? But then when you go to do it the other way, there's some resistance, right? Okay, so my grain runs this way on this piece of chipboard. Okay, so my grain runs that way because it's easier to flex that way. Okay, so I mark it, then pick up my other piece and find, hang on. Okay, sorry about that, hubby was calling. All right, so this one flexes that way because you can see there's resistance here. So I'm gonna mark the grain or the direction on that one. So the trick is that to make your cover super sturdy is to stagger the direction of your chipboard. So one of them is the grain runs vertically, put this one to where the grain is running horizontally, and then once you glue them together, you don't have near the amount of flex because the grains are working against each other. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to do a double thickness with my grains running the opposite direction. Okay, you know what? I may just go ahead and glue those together right now and then mark them and cut them. Sometimes I mark them, cut them, and then glue them together. Sometimes I do it in reverse. Just never know. Just change it up. Today I'm going to glue them first. So the glue I'm using right now is Fabri-Tac. No, I'm using 3-in-1, which is just like Fabri-Tac. They're both made by Beacon. Pretty interchangeable. I'm sure there is a slight difference in their formulation, but they are a very, very similar glue. They're an acetone-based glue, so they do stink. If you've been paper crafting very long, you've probably used this in your paper crafting. I like using a glue like this for projects like this because it is not a water-based glue, and therefore my chipboard doesn't want to warp the way it would if I used a water-based glue. But it is stinky and it will take the polish off your fingers. Alright, and it is a fast drying, quick grab, and you can just rub it off your skin or anything else you've got it on. Ooh, definitely use in a well-ventilated area if you're going to use it. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I don't want any hate mail. Yes, I have received hate mail on the glue I've used. Okay, so glue those together. And now, see how stiff that is? It's nice and stiff, nice and sturdy. And this is just one single piece, see? Yeah, so we get good sturdiness. All right, so let's just pick one of my covers. And I am doing, let's see, 4 3/4 inches tall on the one. I have no idea what your measurements are. If you get everything good and lined up on the one edge, you should be good. All right, 4 3/4. So I'm just going to mark that from that edge. 4 3/4. Turn that over and I'm going to draw my line. Oops. Boy. Okay. 4 3/4. And then my cover for that one, I'm going to go with just this one at the top here. It needed to be 7 inches tall. All right, so I'm going 7 inches down. There's my 7 inches over here. And I could square this up on my cutting mat and try to use my cutting mat more, but I just like using my ruler. 7 inches over here. Draw the line to connect them so I make sure everything's straight. Okay. Let me make this one a little bit longer on this side. There. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this out. And once I cut this out, I can basically lay it down next to it and draw another one on there. So, let me get my ruler that I use for cutting against. I'm going to cut the bottom down here first. That one. And I'm just going to lay it down next to it and trace it. That will be close enough. Close enough. So one will be my front cover and one will be my back. And this is my 4 3/4 by 7 cover. I'm going to write that on there. There's number A. This would be my 4 3/4 by 7, number B. Okay. Because I'm making 2 covers. And the other one is just slightly taller, so I don't want to get them confused later. Okay, good enough. So I have a front and I have a back. Now I need my spine. So I don't need my spine to be as thick as this though. My spine can have some flexibility. I'm okay with that. So what I'm going to use for my spine is I have a sheet of cardboard here that is thinner than my chipboard. So it's, I don't know, it's a little bit thicker probably than a cereal box. Let's see, and I don't mind it having a curve to my spine anyway. So in this instance, I'm going to, if my grain is running this way, I'm okay with my flexibility of my spine being like that. So this will be my bottom, this will be my top, and I am 7 inches tall. So actually, I'll just use my cover. And for this particular journal, let's see, when I remeasured, I chose 2 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to mark 2 3/4 at the top, 2 3/4 down here at the bottom, and connect the dots. Okay. Let's see, I just broke the blade on my knife, so let's just use some scissors. Should be able to get it with scissors. Now, to me that feels just a little bit, I like the flex for the, curving of my spine, but it's just a little bit weak. So I am going to go ahead and double it up. And in this instance, I'm going to keep my grain of my cardboard running the same direction. I'm not gluing it opposite because I want to let it go ahead and flex and have some curve to it. All right, set that off to the side, let it dry just for a minute, and then I will cut around it. Okay, so bring my front cover and my back cover back in. And they're not perfect, but they are good enough. So what I'm using now is a recycled envelopes that had some stuff mailed to me in. This is a postal service mailing envelope, which it's fine if you're using them. If you're upcycling them, you can reuse them like this. Don't go to the post office and get, because they are free at the post office, but don't go to the post office and grab them and use them for your crafts like they are, because I think that would probably be illegal. But you can, instead of throwing it away, you can cut it up and use it for stuff. So, but it's I think it's called Tyvek. It's a kind of a heavy duty. It won't tear. So it's not fabric, but it's not paper. So it works great to use in things like this. All right, I'm just kind of glue that on there like that. Let's bring my spine back in. It should be dried enough now to cut. Well, that looks like a tiger gnawed it off. I may trim that with my paper trimmer real quick. That's a little better. Okay, and then now I'm going to glue that down. And I want to leave some space between my cover and my spine. Okay. Lay it down there. Just want to make sure my top and bottom match. And they do. And then I want to leave myself some space. Oh. Here's a piece of my chipboard. Tough. All right, that's a scrap piece of my double thickness chipboard, so I'm going to lay that in there. Use that as a spacer. Okay. And have enough there. It's okay. I'm just using my scraps and pieces here. Close enough. Use my little scrap here to make a spacer, make a space. By the time you get done gluing your fabric on here, you won't notice tiny imperfections. Okay. Adjust my space a little bit there. Okay. Looks pretty good. Pretty good, pretty good. All right, and then I'm going to let that just dry. Yeah, just gonna let that dry. And then we should be about ready to cut our fabric. and glue this to our fabric. So I need to make sure that my fabric is dry enough to put my second coat on it, and then it will have to dry again. So I will pop back in and check on you guys when I've done that. Okay, so I am back. It's only been a few seconds for you, but it's been a few days for me. So in the last time I was on, I was gonna come back and do a second coat on the fabric, and I did that already. I kind of touched up my fabric, gave second coat on the fabric, and it is all dry now. So I had mentioned that I like to put my fabric on freezer paper and paint it. And the reason for that is that when you peel it up, like, you can just leave it on the freezer paper and let it dry, and you don't have to worry about it like sticking. So, and then when you peel it up, that coating that's on the freezer paper, a lot of that comes up with your fabric when you pull it off, and it gives a kind of a coating on the back a little bit, so glue doesn't seep through your fabric as easily. So that's also a bonus when you use freezer paper. The other bonus is you don't have to worry so much like when it's in the drying process. So I didn't have freezer paper out here, I had regular paper. And I was, for a while, I was doing really good about going over there and kind of lifting the fabric off the paper while it was drying to keep it from sticking. Which is, you know, it's not hard to do. It's just something I have to remember to do. But anyway, I had to end up leaving because I was going to my daughter's to stay for the weekend, and my fabric wasn't dry yet, and I was like, I've lifted it up enough times, it's probably going to be fine. It probably won't stick, and it stuck. It's not that big a deal that there's paper stuck on the bottom, because this is the side I'm going to glue down anyway. But yeah, anyway, that's what happened. So that's part of the reason why I like to use freezer paper. I can just leave it on there, let it dry. Don't have to worry about kind of lifting it off during the drying process. So anyway, so that's one piece of my fabric. Here's the other one. This one I had laid on a sheet of cardboard, and it didn't stick very badly. So okay, so Carmen, that's enough. We had made this one together, and then I've decided for my second cover, because remember I'm building 2 covers, I wanted to do that cover just a little bit differently. So both my Christmas journals, both my Christmas journals that I did the flip through for, and they're still in my shop, by the way, if you're interested in them. Both of them are a little bit different. So this one is the one that's covered in the book cloth. I've already shown it. So we'll do one like this, and then this was a different technique that I used in building a cover, and so we'll also make one like this as well. So I have gone ahead and cut the second one to size. I did that off camera. And for the second one, the one that's going to be made like this one, because I'm going to sew through the spine portion of the cardboard that I cut, I only left it as a single thickness rather than a double like I did for the other one. So I'm going to set that off to the side. We will work on that one in a bit. First, let's finish this one. So for this one, I'm going to bring in one of my pieces of fabric. All right. So now I'm going to flip it over, bring my book cover in, and I like to do the side that is flush on that side. There we go. I'm going to do it like that. And I'm just going to try to line it up to where I have about equal space around the edges. And I can cut off more on this side since I don't need that much. Okay, so now I just need to put down some glue, and you could use Elmer's glue or you know, tacky glue, craft glue. Technically, you could even use like a Mod Podge glue. I'm just going to use my 3-in-1, maybe. But I'm going to try to make it a nice and even coat of the 3-in-1. So I get good adhesion, and so I don't have any ridges. I'm just going to kind of knock down the lumpy bumpy bits. Spread it out a little bit. I'm just using my bone folder to kind of work in that crease. My glue is not quite all the way dry yet, so a little bit of time to do that. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. Bumped the camera. So I ordered this. I had an Amazon gift card, and I ordered this little tool. I've never used one of these before because I've never felt like I needed one. But you know, I don't know. I made one of my covers the last time, and I wasn't quite happy with the corners on it, and I thought, well, maybe I do need a corner tool. So I've never used one of these before. It's called a book cover guide, and if I remember, I'll try to put the link for it on Amazon below. It was only like $10. I think it was 10 or 11. But it's metal, but it helps you make the corners, you know, like to cut the angle on your cover fabric or your book cloth. It's to help with that. It also, if you're doing rounded corners on your books, you're supposed to be able to, it has a guide for cutting the round corner on the book and then using the guide for cutting the fabric a little bit larger. I don't know. Never used one before, so honestly I don't even know exactly how to use it, but we're going to play with it and see what happens here. So, okay, I guess we line it up like that. And then, oh, okay, I remember now. Let's see if I have a pen or a marker that'll write on this. You're supposed to cut your fabric or your paper, like you put this around on your book edge, and this gives you the right amount to have for your extra, I think. And then after that, then you put this on the corner right here, and then you cut, or you mark it and then cut it. So you do it across like that. And that's supposed to give you the perfect, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to finish. I'm going to finish it, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see if it works. No, this is not a tutorial for how to use this tool because I'm not even certain how to use this tool. So, but I'm learning. It can't be that hard, right? Let's see whether or not I like using this. Whether or not it makes things easier. As I said at the very beginning, this isn't really a tutorial as much as it is a craft along with me, okay? So, okay. My pen decided it was done. Maybe I shouldn't have been so mean to it. It's my IU pen, my IU East Asian Studies pen. Dakota gave me because that's what she majors in for her master's. Is she's at IU working on her East Asian languages and cultures master's degree. I don't know. She is a smart cookie. I don't know where she gets it from. Not for me. I can't remember if I mentioned in any of my videos over the summer that she did 8 weeks in Korea studying over the summer. She's way more adventurous than I am. Oh, oops. Connect the dots on those. I need to extend my line. I could use my rotary tool for this, couldn't I? It's alright. We are hanging out together. It's so windy here today. And now this side. Oh, need to connect that line too. Over a little bit. It's a little bit better. Okay, and then that's the one we had drawn the angle across on. That again on the other 3 corners. So this tool, now I remember a little bit more about it now. It's supposed to be like multiple tools in one. This part is like a spacer. You're supposed to put that between your spine and your cover. So that's your spacer. you would do that when you're gluing it down. Of course, I didn't have this tool when I did that. So that was what that part's for. And then this part, yeah, I put that on the corner for drawing for the fabric or the paper. And then this part does the angle cutting. And then this one's the guide if you're doing rounded corner. And then I can't remember what the dots are for, what the circles are for. Those have a purpose too. I don't remember what that's for. Okay. Now that I've cut those off at an angle, they should fold up and meet a little bit nicer, maybe. I guess. I don't know. I'm not that impressed. I could have hand cut it better myself, I think. I think I would have given it a little more space. I guess it depends on the thickness of your cover too. I don't know. I know the professional bookmakers, you know, they use fancy tools. So I'm going to see what I was missing out on, I guess. For what I do, I don't think I needed a fancy tool, though. Okay. Now, come around on this side. Round that in a little bit, kind of tuck it in. I'm going to put metal book corners on anyway, so probably. Have to put any metal corners in there. That did glue up very nicely. so there is one cover. I mean, it's not completely done. We're going to set this aside, let it dry, and then now I'm going to work on the other cover because we're building 2 covers together. Okay, I'm just going to let that dry. Okay, now for our second cover, I want to do it a little bit differently. I was going to make 2 the same, and then I've changed my mind. So the second one I want to make like this journal. So that way you can learn how I made both of these. So this one's done quite a bit differently. So I've gone ahead and I've got my book covers cut, the front and the back cover. I have the spine piece cut. I used the same cardboard that I did out of from the first one, which is this a thin piece of cardboard. It's about the same thickness of a cereal box. But this I only did in 1 thickness rather than 2, like I did with the other one. The single thickness is because I plan on sewing straight through this, and a double thickness would just be a lot to punch through. So the first thing I want to do is I want to wrap my covers individually, separately, with some decorative paper. Now you could do this with fabric also, but I'm going to use decorative paper, and this matches the journal that I'm going to bind with this cover. So it has the roses and it's the pink. It's from My Porch Prints. I think it's her shabby pink Christmas or shabby vintage pink Christmas. I don't know, something like that. So anyway, I've printed 2 of these, and I'm going to use these to wrap my covers in. So the first thing I need to do is glue the cover to the paper. Okay, place that down there. Okay, and just going to put this off. Do the same with the other cover. Going to wrap it pretty much like we did the other cover with the fabric. I'm just kind of pre-bending my paper a little bit so it'll work around without wanting to crack. If you use very thick cardstock, like Sometimes 80-pound cardstock even will crack. 110 definitely tries to crack on you when you bend it over like this. This is not near as thick. I still like to go ahead and give it a pre-bend. So I've heard if you are working with super thick cardstock, like an 80 or 110-pound cardstock, and no, I don't know what that transfers to for GSM, but if you're doing a super thick 80 or 110, it will crack on you if you don't take it nice and slow. So if you're going to use super thick cardstock to wrap, you want to take it nice and slow, just a little bit of bending at a time. And I've heard that if you even dampen it just a little bit with water, and I mean just a little tiny bit of dampening, not saturated, it'll help those fibers to kind of stretch and move. I'm just looking for a nice crisp edge. Okay, so we have both of these wrapped now, and we're going to set those off to the side. And so now we're going to bring in our spine. And we're going to bring back in some of our painted fabric. And now I want to leave about, I don't know, 2 inches should be plenty of overhang over here. I'm going to take my spine piece. This is just a single thickness of that cardboard, about as thick as a cereal box. I'm not even sure where this piece of cardboard came from. It was a sheet of cardboard. I think it came in like packaging for paper. All right, and I'm going for about a 2-inch overhang. So put it right about there. Flip this over. Okay. So about 2 inches overhang on that side. I want about 2 inches of overhang on this side. So go ahead and mark that and cut it. hang on to your scraps. They're usable. Now I want to just fold over the top and the bottom so that it covers the raw edge. Okay, back in our covers. And what we're going to do now is we're going to attach these on each side of the spine. Okay, so it's going to attach on the inside like so. And then this one will attach on this side. Okay, so we'll have this pretty lovely paper on the outside, and then we will have the cloth here on the spine. Okay, all right, now some things we might want to think about doing before we glue this on. May or may not really matter. Depends on if you want Mod Podge to get on your fabric, if you're going to use Mod Podge. If you're going to spray it with a sealer, let me see. This is Mod Podge clear acrylic sealer. So you can spray everything with that. Doesn't really matter if you get it on the fabric either. Or you can give it a coat of Mod Podge. So I think I'm going to give mine a coat of sealer. Well, probably several coats of sealer. So I think that's what I'm going to do for mine. I don't care if it gets on the fabric. That's even better probably. So I think I'm good to go ahead and proceed. So I want to find the edge of my spine. I think if I use my bone folder here, run that down the edge of my spine, it'd be a lot easier to see. Yes, it is. Okay, now I'm going to be gluing this on, but I don't want it to peek up here under my papers. I'm not going to cut all the way to my spine, to the edge of my spine. I'm going to cut up at an angle, and I'm going to come out just slightly on this side. I don't know, that figures up to be about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, you don't have to be perfect with it. It's just I like to keep this little folded edge right here on this side of the spine so I don't have a raw edge. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Left just a little bit on each side of my spine. Okay, and then I've cut it down at an angle. Okay. And then I hope you can zoom that in. That's so handy now that I don't use my phone anymore. You can see that mark I just made, I hope. So I'm going to be gluing that on just like that. Run the glue all the way down this edge. I don't want to put the glue on this edge right here because I don't want any of it to peek out past my cover. So for that part, I'm going to run it down the edge here. And the rest of this, I can put the glue here. Okay, but I stayed away from the edge here because that's what this edge is for, that edge of glue. All right, lay it down on there, flip it over. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to this side. So I'm going to flip it around. I want to make sure I have a good, proper seal. Okay, and so then when we do this journal, we're just going to sew right through the spine. Our signatures will go right in here, and we'll sew right through the spine. So with that being said, I need something to cover this. This is ugly. So I'm going to use some more of our painted fabric to line the inside with. Okay, so I'm just going to square this up nicely. Okay, and now I need to trim it for height. Oh, that should do. I'm going to go down just a little bit. That will do. Okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. And this side. About right there. Okay, bring the cover back in. And then you could, at this point, you could, if you have like a serger, a sewing machine that does the fancy edge, you could do serging on the one end, or you could do a decorative stitching here on this edge if you wanted to. Or you can just glue it down. I'm just trying to get it kind of centered between the top and the bottom. Okay, that's about where it's going to go. Now I'm going to trim off just a little bit on the corners because I don't want it to accidentally, that one's probably pretty good. I don't want it to accidentally peek up behind my decorative paper that I'm going to put in on the ends. Okay, and now we're going to glue this one down. definitely going to pay attention to the edge right here. Make sure that gets glued down nicely. Okay. Got a little bit of glue seepage here, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Okay. So there's that cover for now. Okay, and then we will put decorative paper in it. We'll be sewing in our signatures. Okay, so that's going to be it for just the moment, and then I will come back and we will finish these up by sewing in signatures and finishing out our decorative paper inside. Okay, I will be back in the next video, guys. Bye.